How you guys doing today? Got a deep dive into a supersized collector's edition of Flex from May 2001. And as you can see, we have Shawn Ray on the cover. My personal favorite bodybuilder of all time. I think Shawn Ray would have been a great ambassador of the sport or for the sport. Due to the fact that he wasn't super huge. He often said that he didn't want to play the size game. And he was aesthetic, a very well proportioned, all the classic lines, excellent poser, great presentation. And also, he was really well spoken, very articulate. I just think he would have been a great Mr. Olympia if they chose to go in that direction, but they didn't. They chose to go into go with the mass monster thing. From 1992 on, they just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I remember thinking that Lee Haney was huge. Like, man, Lee Haney is ungodly. Man, he's so big. And then, Dorian was certainly bigger. And even some of the guys who played second and third fiddle to Dorian were bigger than Lee Haney. Like a lot bigger than Lee Haney. So that's the direction they chose to go in. Louis Hulks back into prime time. Oh, okay. Lou Ferrigno returns to TV on The King of Queens. Okay. So let me look at the other table of contents. I think I missed one. So that was the choice they made, but who knows what would have happened if they chose Shawn Ray as the ambassador, at least for one Olympia. But I think it perhaps would have been more relatable because I think, this is just my opinion, but I think it was really good for bodybuilding when it wasn't super obvious that they were using anabolic assistance. Now, granted, that may have been due to our own, ignorance and our innocence. Because I've said in another video that when I was a youngster, I didn't know that these guys were enhanced. I thought that they just worked really hard and ate a lot of food, a lot of protein, and because I was watching I remember they would show bodybuilding on network. Oh, well, sorry, bodybuilding competitions. They show bodybuilding competitions on network television when I was a kid, like 8, 9, 10. I remember seeing, I don't remember what station, I don't remember what event, but I remember seeing Albert Beckles posing on network TV when I was a kid. I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, something like that. And I remember thinking that his muscles looked like balloons. So it could have been ABC's Wide World of Sports, for those of you that remember that, but it was network TV. And we didn't know anything about anabolic assistance back then, So that was, I think, pretty good for the sport. The fact that it wasn't so obvious. Yeah, they were big, but at some point, in the 90s, it just became so obvious that it wasn't natural. That these guys weren't training naturally. It became incredibly obvious. Around, the Dorian Yates era and beyond. And of course, Ronnie Coleman and Marcus Rule, you'd have to be brain dead to not at least have a hunch that they were enhanced, that this just couldn't be achieved naturally. So a Shawn Ray or Lila Brada, I think was good for the sport. And as far as I know, bodybuilders of a bygone era weren't using just insane anabolic stacks. As far as I remember, back in the day, it was decadurabolin and Dianabol or D-ball. I've never used the stuff, and I'm not an expert on anabolic assistance, but I've known guys who were on it, and they talk about it. And I remember hearing about Cystestoline 250 and Cystestoline 350. Pardon me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, because again, I'm no expert. I've never used it in my life. But the point I'm trying to make is I started hearing about anabolics that I'd never heard of before. Sure, everybody heard of Deca and D-ball and Winstrol. I remember hearing about Winstrol, but eventually I was just hearing about, like, what the hell is that? I'm hearing about all of this different stuff. So I think in the earlier days, yeah, they were enhanced, but it just wasn't so freaking obvious, man. But the more of a freak show it became, the less people could relate to it. So that's why I think a Shawn Ray or a Lila Brada or a Bob Paris, and of course Frank Zane won the Olympia before. These guys could have possibly pushed the sport further, but I guess when people go to the zoo, they want to see the gorillas, and when the guys started becoming really big, I don't know, I guess it put butts in the seats. So they chose to go that route. But man, I just, in a parallel universe, maybe in some parallel universe, Shawn Ray did win, and it helped the sport. But again, that's just a parallel universe in my imagination. But there's Shawn Ray. I believe that's Shawn Ray. And at this point, I think I was beyond tearing pictures out. So tearing the pictures out of these magazines, because this was from 2001. So I don't think I tore any pictures out. At least I hope I didn't. Nationally ranked NPC bodybuilder. And of course, the NPC, technically was supposed to be amateur, and people would try to win the NPC. And I wish I could remember all of the other amateur organizations. But if they won this show, if they won that show, and again, I think the NPC was one of them. If you won that, then you could get a pro card. But the funny thing is, even the amateurs were enhanced. The days of building awesome size, empower, make that your focus. These are the days for building awesome size and power. Make that your focus. Yep, that's definitely what they were thinking. Is that Jay Cutler? I would often get Jay Cutler mixed up with a bodybuilder named Troy Zuccolatto. And, yeah, so I think that's Jay Cutler. Maybe I'm wrong. Adopting powerlifting techniques for bodybuilding will bring you closer to your physique goals than you ever imagined possible. Yeah, there's truth to that. A lot of the basic movements, the basic compound movements are not to be denied. But again, it catches up to you. That stuff really wears your joints out. Just heavy lifting in general. Wheeler's turn. No longer bulletproof. The symmetrical spin doctor of bodybuilding looks toward a perhaps uncertain future. Yeah. It's not possible for Ronnie Coleman to put together an 8-year winning streak like Lee Haney did. Ronnie's too old, and the competition is too intense. Wow. Year winning streak like Lee Haney did. Well, I guess he was wrong on that. Because Ronnie Coleman did win it 8 times. As far as I'm concerned, I beat Ronnie Coleman at the 99 Mr. Olympia. I may have to look at that again. You know, that'd be interesting to see. In this day and age, the best balanced bodybuilder loses out to the bigger guy, and that's just plain wrong. Yes, he's right. He is so right there. What I said at the time about Joe Weider and politics playing a part in the outcome of the 98 Olympia was wrong. I had no right to make those statements. Yeah, I will never get that. You know, it's just what I've been talking about the whole time in this video. I mean, that was a choice. It was a choice, man. To go with the size game, to make it about bigger bodybuilders versus the smaller, more complete, more balanced guys. That was a choice that they made, and you know, I think it hurt the sport. You know, like why are you gonna? You just make it so obvious, man, that these guys aren't natural. You make it so obvious that it's a pharmaceutically enhanced sport. Some people don't think it's a sport. They think it's a male beauty competition, whatever. Fine. It's a pharmaceutically enhanced male beauty pageant, whatever. It's the results are the same. Just, it's no longer relatable, man. It really isn't. And what do they have Tobey Maguire in this for? Because of the Spider-Man movie? Okay. Those looking for more credible superheroes than Michael Keaton in a Batman muscle suit will be disappointed with the casting of SpiderMan, a big budget production scheduled to spring into theaters in May 2002. Boyish Tobey Maguire won the starring role as Peter Parker, who, after being bitten by a genetically altered spider, attains ESP and the ability to spin web-scale walls and kick, and kick gluteus maximus. You know, no disrespect to Tobey Maguire, but he is a little guy. You know, just short in stature and everything. You know, and it's noticeable. If you look at the original Batman, I mean, he's like this short guy. You know, I think Andrew Garfield was the second guy to play him in the second big budget Batman. The second big budget Spider-Man. It was the Amazing Spider-Man. They only made 2, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. And I think Andrew Garfield, pardon me if I'm getting that name wrong, I think that's his name. I think he looked better in the suit because he was taller. You know, I mean, you know, Spider-Man and his abilities, you know, yeah, they're impressive, swinging from buildings and scaling walls and so forth, but 5'2" Spider-Man is kind of goofy in my opinion. If you look at the first Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, it was noticeable that Tobey Maguire is a little guy. So I like Andrew Garfield better. Good old Frank Zane. I was just speaking about him. Yeah, Mr. Aesthetic. But yeah, these type of bodybuilders, I think, would have propelled the sport further, in my opinion. You know, because even though he's enhanced, it still looks attainable. You know, it looks like something that's possible without pharmaceuticals. So, you know, but I want a Crouching Tigress. Okay, I don't know who she is. Was she in the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? I've never actually seen that movie, believe it or not. My fitness career stage for all examiners. Yeah, I don't know who she is, but yeah, I've never seen that movie. Oh, look at this! I'm so shocked that I didn't tear this out. To get the most out of your training, you must be prepared to dig deep with every rep and every set of every workout. Yep. Yeah, Shawn Ray, an uncrowned Mr. Olympia. That guy finished like in the top 6. You know, his whole freaking career. He was always 1, 2, 3, 4. He was very successful, you know, and I've said it before. Is that Victor Martinez, I think? And I said it before. And I'll say it again. I think that he should have won the '94 Olympia. But by that time, man, they were just long gone. He was lucky to get second place with the politics of that time. But he was so symmetrical. I mean, and so well proportioned. It was just undeniable, you know. So he got second place. So stupid. But, you know, and then you have Dorian Yates winning first place with only one bicep. But hey, you know, he was bigger. So there's Shawn. Again, who knows if he really wrote this? A twist on triceps. Use rope movements to nail the horseshoe muscle. 1991 Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic winner. He also won, could have sworn he won an Ironman Pro. And when it comes to cable, when it comes to cable exercises in general, versatility is virtually unlimited. Yeah. He retired at 35. You know, he could have gone on. You know, that's a nice shot there. He could have gone on, you know, but he was smart. You know, I guess he didn't want to end up with chronic pain, you know. But I do think, as far as professional bodybuilding, you know, your mid-30s is a good place to stop. You know, now Dexter Jackson competed until he was 50. And he trained very intelligently. You know, he was one of those guys that eventually started training rather light, you know, just concentrate on squeezing, you know, just getting the most overload you can with light to moderate weight, you know. I mean, and you can incorporate isometrics, you know, rest pausing, you know, insane squeezing, you know, at the top of the movement, you know, of course, peak contractions, if I didn't say that already. And you can still overload a muscle without using maximal weight. But I do think that heavy training brings out a hardness and graininess that you may not get with lighter training. But of course, that also is affected by genetic predisposition. So, you know, that may not be accurate. You know, some people just may be grainier due to genetics, you know. But once you've exhausted a muscle and it's on fire and you know, and you can barely do another rep, what's the difference if you're using heavier lightweight? At that point, I mean, you're so fried and there's so much lactic acid built up that, I mean, is there really a difference? You know, now I'm not, I mean, there could be some science to dispute that, you know, but one thing I do know, oh, I actually have this book. Isn't that something? That's actually a very good book. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, this book right here. I'm really shocked to see this in a Weeder magazine. Brawn, Stuart McRoberts classic from 91 for hard gainer who can't gain on conventional programs. Brawn, bodybuilding for the genetically typical and drug-free. I have that one too. But voila. Stuart McRobert. This is a good book, although there are some lies in it, because there's one part that says, you know, if you stick to compound movements and drink lots of milk, you won't be able to stop growing. You know, that is not true for everyone. You know, it's just so irritating to me that some try to get beyond genetics, or sell you this myth that there's something you can do to get beyond your genetics. And I mean, he said you won't be able to stop growing, and that is just not true. Dorian and Flex. Yeah. Yeah, man, that rivalry, I don't know. You know, Flex eventually kind of started playing the size game, and I think he could have beaten Dorian. You know, he wasn't as hard and grainy as Dorian. Is that Marcus Rule? He wasn't as hard and grainy as Dorian. But definitely had the better shape. Even Dorian admits that. So, you know, I think another reason why they started playing the size game or just started focusing on bigger bodybuilders is shape is more genetic than everything. If you have a wide waist, there's nothing you can do about that. You know, so if you don't have that aesthetically pleasing shape, the only thing you can do is play the size game. You know, and if the guy gets huge, gets ungodly, you know, there's a chance that he may look shapelier than he is because he's finally offset that wide waist and those wide hips. So maybe that's what it's about, you know. But the shape, you want to talk about genetic. If you're pear-shaped, there's nothing you can do about that. So we're about done here. And that's just a theory, by the way. But it makes sense. So pretty good issue. Again, from May 2001. Uncrowned Mr. Olympia here. All right, I'd like to thank you guys for watching another episode of PLA Mind and Body Works and my deep dives into classic bodybuilding magazines. And I will be back with more content and information on the fitness industry, personal training, and strength training in general. All right, thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.